All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our first official unit here, um, Renaissance, Reformation, and Scientific Revolution. Our lesson today is the beginning of the Renaissance. So for today, we're going to take a look at how the Renaissance started, where it started, and kind of some of the characteristics of it as well. So our objectives and standards are to understand the characteristics of the Renaissance and how it began in Italy. Pardon me. And to recognize the impact of individuals within the Renaissance. And take a moment there to look over the standards there. These are some of the state standards that we're going to be using in the lesson as well. And our desired result. How did the Renaissance begin? So again, thinking about that as the overall question of this lesson, and we'll review this at the end of the lesson as well. So some vocabulary for you. Renaissance. The Renaissance is a time period of creativity and change that lasted from the 1300s to the 1500s and means rebirth. Humanism is an intellectual movement that focused on worldly subjects rather than religious views. Humanities, poetry, grammar, rhetoric, history, etc. that began to be studied. And vernacular, everyday language of ordinary people. And our last vocab word there is patron. A patron is someone who is a financial supporter of the arts. So a change in worldviews. There is going to be a golden age of arts and literature that takes place in Western Europe from the 1300s to the 1500s. So like I said on the previous slide, the Renaissance means rebirth. So there's going to be a rebirth of knowledge and intelligence and studying and things like that. It was also a time of creativity and change in many other areas such as economics, politics and government, society, and culture overall. Now, it was a transition between medieval Europe and early modern times. Medieval Europe had a lot of death, a lot of disease, and a lot of war. People were very focused on just trying to live through the day or the week for that matter, instead of enjoying themselves. There wasn't a lot of, color and things like that. A lot of times it's called the Dark Ages as well as the medieval Europe. It's called some of the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages, because there wasn't a lot of education. There wasn't a lot of knowledge being shared. People were just basically going through their daily lives of living and dying. But with the Renaissance, we're going to see a change in the way that people see themselves and the world. So this was a awakened interest in the learning of ancient Greece and Rome, which was a change from disorder and disunity of the medieval world. Excuse me. So culture and society shift. Here I have a picture of a typical Renaissance scene. Again, you can see all the different types of clothing, all the different colors people have. We have some dancers over here. Looks like some performers over there. People shopping and discussing ideas and sharing different stories and things like that. You can see some of the architecture changed. We'll talk about some of the architecture that changes, along with the artwork that will begin to change as well. So we have a lot of different things that are going on in society at this time. Now, the people of the Renaissance Europe did not completely move away from medieval Europe. They're still going to be religious. They're still going to, practice a lot of the same things that they were, but there is going to be new attitudes towards culture and learning. So thinkers of the Renaissance were eager to explore the human experience here in the present. So again, during the Dark Ages, medieval Europe, many people were focused on, oh, you have to work hard and live hard, so you can get to the next life or the next world. It wasn't so much enjoy yourself here in the present, it was, worry about getting to the next life. During the Renaissance, that's going to change to, hey, we can worry about getting to the next life and be religious, but we should enjoy ourselves here on, with our family and friends here on Earth as well. People are also going to begin to have a sense of curiosity and adventure to explore new ideas and places. So humanism and the how-to of the Renaissance. The intellectual movement known as humanism was at the source of the Renaissance. So humanism were people who believe that people should enjoy life here and now, things like that, and study the classical arts and literature of Greek and Roman cultures. And they're going to look to use the wisdom of ancient times to increase their knowledge as well. Now again, most were religious Christians, but they wanted to move away from the strong focus on the religious issues from medieval Europe. They believed education should stimulate an individual's creative powers, and humanists are going to emphasize subjects such as grammar, rhetoric, which is basically speaking, poetry, and history, and these subjects will become known as the humanities, named for those who studied it, and the humanism movement. So the language of writing. An early Renaissance humanist was Francesco Petrarch, and he hunted down and assembled a library of Greek and Roman manuscripts. Now, due to his efforts, many pieces of writing and literature now became known to Western Europeans. Again, during the medieval times, during the Dark Ages, people didn't have access to that. So Petrarch is going to help bring a lot of those writings and a lot of those stories back to Europe so people can enjoy them and understand them. He also wrote poetry, and in the vernacular, and vernacular is everyday language of people, so others can enjoy it. A lot of times, a lot of writings have been written in Latin during the medieval times, and many people couldn't read Latin. Latin was the official language of the Catholic Church, which had a lot of power and control during medieval times and in the Dark Ages and things like that. But ordinary people, if you weren't educated, really couldn't read Latin. They couldn't really read the Bible. They couldn't read, maybe a story. So putting these writings into people's everyday language so they could read it made it easier for them to understand. And many other Renaissance writers are going to follow his ways of writing in the ordinary language of people, the vernacular. So Italy and the Renaissance. Ancient Roman civilization had been centered in Italy, so it's natural for the Renaissance to begin there. Obviously, we know that Rome, if you know anything about ancient times, the ancient Roman civilization with Caesar and all them, a very important and influential time in history. A lot of statues, a lot of coins, and architectural remains and inscriptions were reminders of ancient Rome throughout Italy. Unlike the rest of Europe, Italy's cities had been very successful during the Middle Ages, so places in England and France and Germany not really trading a lot, not doing a lot of those things during the Middle Ages, but Italy is pretty prosperous. So city-states, you'll see them in different colors here. That's the city-states, or like little, Italy isn't a country yet, so there's these like little kingdoms, okay, like little states. Think of like Pennsylvania as its own little country, New Jersey as its own little country, and that's what was going on in Italy. So these city-states, such as Florence, Milan, Venice, and Genoa, were prosperous in trade and manufacturing. So trading posts along Italy's coastlines are going to bring ships, goods there, people, and ideas from the Muslim world. Now, there had been preserved text in the Muslim world from ancient Greece and Rome, and they're going to be exchanged with people in Italy now. Okay, so again, a lot of these texts, a lot of this knowledge is being traded and expanded to Italy. So support from merchants. There are wealthy and powerful merchants who are going to begin to appear in Italy's city-states, and they're going to support cultural rebirth. Now, these merchants are eventually going to shape the Renaissance in Italy through having both political and economic leadership. Wealthy merchants are going to stress individual achievement, and they're going to support the arts. They're going to support art and artists, all those things with large amounts of money. And one of the most famous wealthy merchants of the Renaissance times was the Medicis. And living in Florence, Medicis in Florence will soon become a symbol of the Renaissance. So the Medicis. During the 1400s, the Medici family of Florence is going to organize a banking business. Now, soon after this, the business is going to prosper, and the family is going to expand into other areas like mining and manufacturing. So cultural and political power were controlled by money at this time. In 1434, Cosimo de' Medici, his pictures are right here, he is going to gain control of the Florentine government, and for many years the Medicis are kind of like uncrowned rulers of the city. They don't really have official titles, but they're making decisions, right? Because they have the money, they're having a lot of political power and a lot of economic power as well. So Lorenzo Medici, his picture right up top there, he is Cosimo's grandson. He was known as the Magnificent because he's going to hold Florence together in difficult times and was a financial supporter of the arts. All right, so our closure. How did the Renaissance begin? Think about kind of the difference between medieval Europe and the Renaissance. What were people looking for? How did they begin to explore new ideas and new ways of thinking and learning? And think about some of those key individuals and some of those key places that are going to lead to the Renaissance beginning. All right, I hope you have a great rest of your day or night. Please be sure to include this information in your weekly summary as usual. And I hope you have a great rest of your day or night. Talk to you soon.